How is it rocking, Dwayne Nation? Stay here because we are just about to get underway. In the meantime, please like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. We put out weekly sports content, and we want to continue to build up Dwayne Nation and the brand that is Dwayne Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy. Welcome in, Dwayne Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and our guest star, my dad, Victor Paez. We've knocked out 3 videos so far. The NFC North, the NFC East, and the NFC West. We're going to end with the NFC South. Man, it's been a marathon, but we love what we're doing here today. It's been fun to have you on too, Dad. And yeah, how do you feel? You're 4 episodes in.
The season to start. I can't wait. Sorry to cut you off there, but it's it's that tingling sensation that you're ready to do some mock drafts, and I'm ready to go.
No, I completely agree. The season couldn't come faster. Hopefully, I hope that I can't wait for it. I just can't wait for it. Just about anything, Jen, Genoa, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, Justin. Hey, we still have a month left, and so we're just going to be grinding these videos, just keep talking until we get to July, and preseason's around the corner. So I'm excited, man.
I'm really excited too, and Dwayne Nation, you should be excited because we are going to have some mock drafts over the next few weeks. We're going to have a sleepers episode, a bold predictions episode. We're going to do my guys this year, which is really exciting. We'll have our guys that we're going to have our stamp of approval on this year and kind of stand by, and much more. So just stay tuned, and we'll be jumping into fantasy soon. And then, of course, if you love football, I hope you also love basketball because we've been knocking out content like that too. Obviously, we had our basketball, our NBA Finals talk this last few days, and so so we'll jump into the NFC South to end our NFL predictions. These will take a lot less time because a lot of games have already been filled in. You might hear me blabber on just a little bit so we can get by it. But we'll start with Atlanta, a team that has I feel like there's a lot of excitement and also a lot of animosity just because of the draft with Michael Penix. But we have Kirk Cousins signed to the big deal coming off the Achilles injury. But this team there's a lot of excitement around it, and I'm part of that bandwagon because they got Arthur Smith out of town. They brought in a much better quarterback and just another year of growth for London and Bijan and Pitts. So there's high hopes for this team, and we started off just like that. Arthur Smith he's the new OC for Pittsburgh, and in his first game as the OC, he gets to play his former team, but his former team beats him at home. Atlanta wins week 1 before in week 2 they go into Philadelphia on Monday night. We have them losing that game. They also lose a home game to Kansas City. We think Kansas City is going to be, jump right back into how they played last year. But here now we get to talk about some football. Here we have Atlanta hosting the Saints. Dad, I'll let you start us off. Who do you think's winning that game?
I'm going with Atlanta. If you compare all the positions, quarterback, I think Atlanta, running back, Atlanta, receivers, and I think Atlanta, that all they have is Olave right there. Kamara's getting old. He's not what he was, so it's going to be Atlanta at home.
Yeah, I'm going to agree. Definitely have Atlanta. The first couple of weeks are going to be so hot, and they've lost, the previous 2 weeks. So I definitely feel like they're going to be, ready to go to knock out the Saints.
I agree. I have Atlanta winning that game at home. Atlanta actually gets their 3rd straight home game. They play a division rival, Tampa Bay. Genoa, is this another victory for Atlanta?
This is going to be a closer game than we expect, but definitely like Atlanta to break away at the end.
I agree. I think it's going to be Atlanta. I think Mayfield's going to struggle. Atlanta, like I said, sneakily was like top 7 defense, I think, towards the end of the season. So I think Atlanta's going to take it.
Yeah, I agree. Atlanta's going to have something to prove. And so they win that game. And then they go on the road now. This is a true road test and a division game. Pops, are they against the Carolina Panthers? Who's winning it?
Yeah, it's going to be Atlanta again. If you go back, the positions, it's a better quarterback, better running back, better receivers. It's going to be Atlanta.
Yeah, I like Atlanta to win this one as well.
Okay. All right. I was going to view it as a trap game for Atlanta, and Carolina would pull out an upset, but we have Atlanta taking the majority. We also have Atlanta beating Seattle at home before going on to the road to face off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Pops, what do you think? Who's going to win it?
It's going to be a closer game now that Tampa Bay's at home. I'm still pulling for Atlanta because, like I said, they're just a better team, I think, and their defense is better, and that's what's going to win this game.
I like Tampa to win this one. I feel like their defense makes some stops, and Baker makes some random plays to get them the victory.
I'm going to go with Tampa as well. I think Atlanta's going to be the best team in this division pretty clearly, but there's got to be some bumps in the road. I don't think it'll be a cakewalk, and we have Tampa Bay winning that game. But then the next week we have Atlanta at home beating the Dallas Cowboys, and that'll be actually a really great game to watch before they go back onto the road and they face another division rival in the New Orleans Saints. Dad, I'll let you start it off.
It's going to be Atlanta. I think this is when they're going to decide to either start someone else besides Derek Carr. So I'm going with Atlanta on this one. I don't think Derek Carr
me
could
too.
ever.
Yeah, me too. I think definitely Atlanta takes this one as well.
Yeah, I was going to go the Saints, but Atlanta gets the victory there. They're 11 and after these handful of games, so they're doing really well in the season. They go into Denver and they win that game before going on their bye week. They come out of their bye week though and they lose at home to the Chargers. I'm a huge Chargers fan this year. I think they're going to be cooking with gas, so they get that victory. But they bounce back. They win a road game in Minnesota. And then they stay on the road and they lose though to the Raiders. So they're splitting right now after their bye week. But they win against the Giants because who loses to the Giants anymore? And then they play another NFC East team with the Commanders and they win on the road. And at this point, I think they're pretty comfortably in first in their division, and they have a Week 18 matchup against Carolina. Genoa, are they going to win it?
Yeah, I think they'll win it. You see, I do like Bryce Young towards the end of the year. You know what? Actually, I'm gonna say the Panthers because just now that I'm thinking about it, I think the Falcons would be so ahead in the division. I don't think they'll be it'll be a need to play their starters. So definitely give me Carolina in that last one.
No, I'm going with Atlanta again. I think they're going to play them. They're proving a point with Cousins. They're gonna pull it out. I think they're gonna get those numbers. Another beast.
I think they will sit a handful of their starters in this game because they're going to be in charge of the division. But I'm thinking even if they sit their starters, Michael Penix is going to come in and win for them, and it's going to be exciting and kind of bring more drama to the team, unfortunately, because Penix will look good in his only start in the season, best case scenario for Atlanta, and it'll be like, Kirk did good, but Penix showed some stuff in his one game as a starter. But anyway, so we have Atlanta winning that game. They go 12-5, and that'll be interesting. And so we're going to jump to Tampa Bay.
I think Cousins stays the whole year unless he gets hurt.
Yeah.
That's my mind. I think they're going to give Knicks a week off. A year off. And
I think that's. I hope. Yeah, definitely. Of course, injury can play in, but
only if injury happens.
Right.
He's good.
I don't think he can play. I don't think Kirk has in his bag that he can play so badly that they bench him. So I agree. Okay. Anyway, so we'll jump into Tampa Bay. Obviously, a team that surprised a lot of people last year with Baker Mayfield. This year, they go into the season. Dave Canales has left, and he is now the head coach of Carolina. So we'll see what this team looks like. They did re-sign Baker, of course, and Mike Evans. They start their season against the Commanders, which we have them winning. Then they go into Detroit, and they lose that game before winning 2 straight games, one against Denver, one against Philadelphia. So they're feeling pretty good, 3-1. But then they lose a game on the road to Atlanta before staying on the road and facing the New Orleans Saints. Pops, who do you think's winning that game?
I think the Saints. 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 I
I'm going to go with the Saints. They're at home. It's a close game. It's going to be a close game, but I think the Saints going to pull it out. Um, I just Derek Carr just doesn't convince me. I'm going to go with the Saints still. I'll go with the Saints.
Yeah, me too. I'm going to pick the Saints. I don't think I've picked them all day, so I like them to knock this one out.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna go Saints on that one. So they lose that game. That's 2 in a row, and it becomes 3 in a row when they lose to Baltimore. But then they come back at home and they beat Atlanta before losing to the Chiefs and the Niners. It's a tough stretch before going on their bye week. But they get a softie when they come back. They play the Giants in dreaded MetLife, but they win that. And then they have a road game against the Panthers. I'm gonna go Carolina on this one. It's in Carolina. Bryce Young needs to win a handful of games. Dave Canales, he's playing his former team. So I have Carolina here. Jano, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Carolina. Maybe I feel like Baker Mayfield struggles this one as well. I just feel like maybe Dave Canales knows the tools to get to Baker Mayfield and how to stop him, as well as how to score on Tampa's defense.
Yeah. By this time, I think they're going to have a running game. They're going to pick their starter because there's like 2 or 3 of them that they're trying to start. So I'm going to by a close margin, this is going to be the Carolina Panthers.
All right, we got the Panthers winning that one. Tampa Bay loses again, this time to the Raiders, then the Chargers, and then the Cowboys. So a tough stretch for them, a handful of L's. But then they get 2 home games to end the year. They get the Panthers again. Is this a game they're going to win, though, Dad?
Yeah, they're going to say, no, not at home. So Tampa Bay's definitely going to take this one.
Yeah, me too. I agree. I think Tampa Bay takes this one.
All right, I'm going to agree. Tampa gets that one. And then they host another game, this time to the Saints, who the Saints won their first game. But is Tampa Bay going to win this one?
Yeah, I think Tampa's going to win this one. By this point, I think the Saints are going to already have thrown in the towel. We'll probably get the third string at that point. I know Jameis is not there anymore, so whoever's the third string for the Saints will probably play.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is Derek Carr's last year. I think Tampa Bay is going to be too much for him. Tampa Bay is going to take it.
Yeah, I agree. It probably will be Rattler at this point in the year, or the third string. That'd be something. But okay, we had Tampa.
You can't lose by putting the third string in.
Well, you remember that year? I think it was New Orleans that put in like their third string, and then Miami's defense.
Yeah,
it was like Ian Book.
Yeah, the dude from Notre Dame.
We might see that again, even though it'd be week 18. Anyway, so we have the Bucs ending their season at 7-10. We'll jump to the Saints, who we only have 2 games to fill in for them.
And for the Saints, I think this might be Kamara's last year on the Saints. I just don't think.
Yeah, they don't owe him any guaranteed money after this season, so he probably will be off the roster, which opens the door for a certain Kendre Miller.
Yep.
Dynasty managers might be interested in kind of buying him right now on the low. Or you could even argue he might break out this year if Kamara stays inefficient or gets injured again. But Kendre Miller might be a little sleeper because Jamal Williams was not good last year at all. But anyway, so the Saints, they head into this year essentially the same. Their big change, though, is they get rid of Carmichael at OC for Kubiak, Gary Kubiak's son. So we're hoping that changes the team. Clearly, we don't really think so in the win and loss column. But anyway, we'll jump into their first game where they get a home game against the Panthers. Pops, who do you think's winning it?
It's going to be the Saints. I think they will win this one. The first game of the year at home. They're gonna take this one, I think.
I'm gonna go with Bryce Young to sneak one out here. I think sometimes in week 1 we have those like crazy games, sometimes like a random shootout. I think this might be one of those random shootouts. Not anything that carries on through the season, but I definitely a great offensive game for Bryce Young.
I agree. I'm gonna go with Bryce Young as well. And give him a good victory to start the year, which is not good for the Saints because then they lose to Dallas, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Kansas City. For any team, that's a tough stretch, but especially for the Saints, they don't pull out any victories there. But then they come home and they win 2 straight home games, one against the Bucs, one against the Broncos. That is Sean Payton's First game against the Saints since he left them, so that'll be a fun game to watch just because of that history. But we have the Saints winning it. But then they go back on the road and they lose to the Chargers. And then they stay on the road and they play the Panthers. Clearly, me and Genoa here, we had them winning over New Orleans in their first game of the season on the road. So I'm going to have them winning as well at home. But Genoa, what do you think?
I'm gonna give the Panthers again this one. I just feel like Bryce Young, he'll have those on and off games, and I feel like he'll have the Saints number this year.
I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. I'm going to give it to the Panthers just because they're at home, and I think they're just going to give up. Saints are just not the team right now as they used to be 3 or 4 years back.
Agreed. Much agreed. Okay, so we have the Panthers winning that game. Then the Saints, they lose to Atlanta and Cleveland, both home games, but tough matchups before going into their bye week. Then they're home again, but they lose to the Rams. So 3 home games, you think they had the advantage, but they lose all 3 of them before winning at home against the Giants and a home win against the Commanders. And then they go on the road and play the Packers. That's a tough game for them. They lose it. But then they're home against the Raiders. We have them winning that game. We talked about that in the AFC West video. And then we have them losing their last game of the year against the Buccaneers. We probably see a different quarterback, as Genoa mentioned. Derek Carr is probably either benched or hurt or cut. Not a lot of high hopes from this podcast for the Saints, and especially Derek Carr. Even with the new OC hire, I think honestly they should just get rid of Dennis Allen as well after this season. And kind of just get a new coaching staff in there. Because Dennis Allen was never a really good coach since Sean Payton left. Did they win a division? I'm not sure, but
yeah,
they did win the division after Payton left. But anyway.
No.
Oh, no, they didn't. Because Dennis Allen is just a lot of blah. So I feel like they'll probably get rid of him after this season. But anyways, that wraps up the NFC South. We have Atlanta winning the division at 12-5, kind of running away with it. 5 games up on the Buccaneers, who are 7-10, the Saints, who are 5-12, and the Panthers, 4-13. But in mentioning that, we're going to talk about what the playoff standings would look like after we cover this whole NFC. So we have the Eagles. They went 14-3. We covered that in the NFC East episode. So they get the number 1 seed. They get the bye week. Then the Packers are the number 2. Edging out the Lions. The Falcons run away with their division. They would go 12-5. And then the Rams also, they edge out the 49ers. Same record, but a better division record for the Rams. So they win their division. Then we have the Niners, Lions, and Cowboys securing a wild card spot. But I'm just going to throw it to you guys real quick. And just, Jano, you can start us off here. What do you think? What do you think after our predictions? How this playoff standings look?
They look exactly how I thought it would, Justin. Because we knew the Eagles are going to be great. We knew that the Packers and the Lions are going to be battling back and forth, and we obviously knew that the Falcons were going to win that division. It's kind of wide open, but they're the most talented team in the NFC. So no surprises at all here. Maybe a little bit is the Dallas Cowboys being at the 7th seed. But with how so many talented teams are now in the NFC, that wouldn't be a surprise.
All right, Dad, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. The same thing. What y'all been saying there. Some of those teams that y'all picked, I think they're going to be higher, and some are going to be lower. So I just don't know on all those playoff records.
Yeah, the records are, of course, going to fluctuate in our thoughts because those are pretty high, 14-3, 13-4s, a lot of 12-5s. But I'm fairly confident that those top 6 teams are going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's that 7 that I'm really thinking that could go a number of different ways. Dallas, of course, is probably the favorite for that 7 spot. But I like the Cardinals. I think the Bears could be an interesting one. And, of course, the Commanders. I think because I don't remember how many years in a row, but consecutively, I think at least 4 or 5 years in a row, we've had a worst to first team There's none of that included here or in the AFC. So something's missing here. I think we are going to have one of those surprise teams like Houston was last year. I think the Commanders could be one of those teams. There's a handful of teams that could really pull that off. But yeah, those are our top 7. That's what the playoffs would look like. We'd have a rematch of Dallas and Green Bay, which, sorry, Dallas fans, that wouldn't look good.
Yeah, they look awful. I mean, I don't know what.
That would be so bad. Then we had Atlanta and Detroit. That would be a really great game to watch, I think, in Atlanta. So we'll see if Detroit could pull that off. And then, of course, the Rams play the Niners, another division matchup. 2 teams that had the same record in the season. So that would be a great game. So good setup. And that concludes the entire NFL predictions per record for us at Dween Sports. Thank you guys for listening. And I mean, now we're going to kind of start diving into more fantasy football topics. This is more NFL scope, wide, but it's really fun to kind of dive in here and debate and pick what records are going to be, because I mean, there's just so many good games in the season, so many things to talk about. But yeah, so that wraps it up. I appreciate you guys for listening. Pops, thank you for joining today.
I had a great time.
Yes, you were a great presence. We were glad that you were able to put your inputs in, Mr. Zoo Crew. We can't wait to have you for more. Obviously, we're gonna have some mock drafts soon, so we'll definitely see your face again. Dween Nation, continue to listen, continue to share, subscribe, like all of the good things to help build Dween Nation.
Sports, baby, right there.
Dween Sports, you know it. We got the merch. And we're going to continue to build up. So we actually have a show in Dallas in a few weeks. And we're just going to continue to have some episodes. So you'll see our faces more and more. And we thank all of our listeners who listen now. Thank you for listening. And we can't wait for more listeners. And thank you. So Genoa, as always, send us out.
Dween Nation, we love you guys. And yes, we're growing. It's a couple more months till football. And hey, y'all keep watching and we'll keep, sending it out there. And Dween Nation, we love you guys. And as always,
Peace out. That's right.
Bye, guys.